Hello, friends. I am very excited to be here with Izor. I had the beautiful opportunity to meet with her when I was with my mom in Provence, I think about a month ago now. And she's now here with us to talk about the beautiful work she does. And Darcy's going to read her bio.
Hello, all. Yes, I am. Uh, really grateful to be here and introduce Isaure De La Presle. Uh, Isaure is the founder of Ada's Grove, a transformational guide, artist, and retreat leader, really experienced leader whose personal journey through loss, healing, and reinvention inspired a new path, a path of helping others reconnect with their heart, with nature, and with themselves. After building a successful career as a recognized artist and mentor in Santa Barbara, California, she followed a deeper calling to create transformative retreats and guided journeys that blend mindfulness, nature, contemplative practices, and ancient wisdom. Today, Isaure helps people cultivate greater clarity, purpose, and inner connection, creating experiences that support healing, personal growth, and living with greater authenticity. And as Isaure says, the heart heals through authenticity, presence, and connection. And isn't that why we are all here? So with that, I will hand it back over for this conversation.
Mm, beautiful. What a pause just there. That's kind of the essence of what you allude, Izor. Thank you for being here. Um,
Thank you
I'm
for having me.
excited to let people know the beautiful work that you're doing in your home in Ida's Grove and the workshops that you're leading all over the place. And then of course the individualized work that you do, like you had done with my mom and I. But I thought maybe we could start off with how you got into this work. I know that you've actually lived in, I think, quite a few places, leading you back to Provence. But so I'd love to just hear a little bit about that before we get into all the work part.
I think that uh, I went through my own trauma and my own heartbreak about probably 15 years ago. And it was the end of the life that I knew as I knew it, had to start over. And so I was married, I had four amazing kids, and my husband fell in love with another woman and chose that path. And it left me very broken to start with, but it was through the deepest depth of my darkness that something inside of me started questioning, is this what life really is about? I needed to understand why and why sometimes, because there was the betrayal part, but there was also the injustice of being left. And so I started reading different books that were actually given to me in the most mystical way. It wasn't me seeking the information, it kept coming to me. So I felt like a hand from another realm was constantly holding that space for me. And I read my first few books on reincarnation, and it spoke to me. It helped alleviate so much pain to understand that I had somehow decided to come in that life and ask for this experience and bloom from it. And so that was the beginning. And from there, a few years, I would say I was definitely stuck in a lot of pain and, uh, you know, entertain drinking a little too much to numb the emotions. And probably sat after a while. I felt like there was the trauma part, but then after a little while, I see myself rereading some of my journals and really feeling a little bit in the place of the victim. And what really turned everything around was to do a very masculine workshop in Columbus, Ohio, where I had moved to from France, where the marriage actually ended. And there I was propulsed into changing my life just by this workshop because I also became a leader in the workshop, and that put me in a brand new role to raise $6,000 for a charity that we'd chosen in a team of 50 people. And I walked out of there feeling so much more confident and hopeful for the life forward. And then it just kept unfolding. I got a book on Joe Dispenza and I went to Joe Dispenza's workshops. It was actually celebrating my 50th birthday, and I offered myself this beautiful retreat in Mexico with Joe. And I had never meditated in my life, but I was listening to all the videos of people who had changed their life, and they're very short, they're testimonial. And I thought, wow, if they can do it, why can't I do it too? And by the time I went to the workshop, 3 months had unfolded. I practiced meditation with these big ear things on my ears, and I started feeling sensations. And I went to the workshop and I had a full out of body experiment. I saw myself above, uh, I think we were 900 people inside this room. And I had this angel call to me and say, follow me, come out of your body. And then I had messages for every person in my family. It was such a mystical and powerful experience. And then there was the healing sessions that Joe organizes in his workshops. People ask for healings, and then he would put eight of us around the people, and the voice and the pain of certain people came through me. So this was the beginning of my voice, or me being a vessel or a conduct. And there was a girl laying on the floor, and like literally this energy came from above, went through one woman at one end of the circle, through the woman on the floor's body, and out came my voice, and like this deep guttering uh, belly scream came from me with my head being pushed back by this energy. And it wasn't me. I knew it wasn't me. I was just really passing the person's healing through the body. And that was very fascinating how that happened. And since then, I know I've gone to four more of his workshops, and they're becoming more and more mystical in their own ways. But I understood that God wasn't the Christian God that I was raised to believe. I started feeling there was something so much bigger and so much more interesting to God itself or the universe. And I became very curious. I'm an Aries as a sun sign, and I'm also a rising Scorpio. So the Aries is fire. She likes to run and go find information, and the Scorpio likes to dig and go to the places of the unknown. And I just, I became fascinated in that world. I wanted more. I was like, I don't just want to stay here. And I kept running at Joe's workshop into shamans who did ayahuasca. And I remember thinking, this isn't for me. I'm doing just fine through meditation. Why would I even do ayahuasca? Everything in my life that I say it's not for me, it's almost like a door that opens and says, oh, you have to go through there. If I say it's not, then somehow the divine orchestrates a situation where I am brought to that situation. And so I met a very good friend that I really trusted, who introduced me to ayahuasca during the pandemic. And it wasn't her serving at the time, and it was a beautiful shaman from South America, and it was in Texas of all places. But and from there, I started also working with psilocybin, and I'd never taken any drugs except for maybe, smoked a few joints back in high school, maybe. Not even. I didn't really like pot. So, um, and so for me to develop, um, to trust the plant and not see it as a drug, but as a healing conduit and also a door to open to the mystical, was huge because I come from an incredibly conservative family. And I started really working with the plants while I was living in California because I moved from Ohio to California right after my first or second workshop with Joe, actually. Again, everything unfolded through meditation and manifestation and creating a brand new reality of my life, like letting go of the woman whose husband had left her to becoming um, the mystic that I am today. So that's how I started.
Your journey. Yeah, I love hearing everybody's journey. It's fascinating to me how we get there, and it's usually through complicated, difficult times that we're trying to understand, and it like helps us reconnect with missing pieces.
Yeah.
Um, so I'm grateful that you got there, and now you're on this in this other place that you're able to support others that are in it and struggling and whatnot. So I'd love to learn more about that. I obviously can speak to some of the work that you've done because I had the opportunity to actually be on your property in this beautiful Ida's. You call it Ida's Grove, right?
Ada's Grove. Yeah.
Ida's Grove. I'm sorry. Um, and so I had the opportunity to be there, and it's definitely a very I want to say mystical, but I feel like there's other words. It's definitely a vortex of lots of energy that was really healing for my mom and I. Do you want to speak a little bit about your property and what you house there? My mom and I'm sure you do lots of different things. My mom and I were, we did art there, and you led us in a beautiful meditation and fed us beautiful food, and we got to just kind of rest there. My mom was so relaxed, she took a nap, and just took space, which was amazing. That she just was like, okay, that's what I'm going to do right now. That's how grounding your space is. So, do you have anything to add to that?
Well, the first thing is getting a house with 4 bedrooms and living here on my own was huge. And I have 4 children, so I wanted a house where they could come to, but I remember from my very first Joe Dispenza workshop, I literally, in my image board that he had us create, I wanted a sanctuary somewhere where people could come and heal. And I wanted to use my voice, which is very interesting because that's exactly what unfolded in the last, 8 years. Um, but Ada's Grove is a sanctuary. It has a lot of the Divine Mother energy because I've really worked very close with the energy of, I call it the Sophia consciousness, which is just the feminine part of uh, our God. We talk a lot about Christ consciousness, but I was really truly connected to the Sophia consciousness in the last 3 years while I was living here. And it has the comfort of bedrooms and bathrooms. That's one thing, but the other part is it has a full room for a meditation room, and it's surrounded by pine forest, and pines are actually full of ions, and they come and help heal people. And I've had people come for sometimes one-on-one art, plant medicine, going to St. Baume, others who actually it's always a theme is quite recurrent. It's always about going to St. Baume and healing their heart. It's people come to me with their baggage and somehow the invitation of Ada Grove makes it easy for them to open up their heart and start speaking. And I think my job in the midst is just to really listen and then share from a place of own self-experience, all the healing work that I did that kind of fits in whatever the person is going through. And the divine always sends you the perfect mirror. It's always people that have something in common with something that I've gone through in my life, so I can actually share from a place of love and understand them. And try to share every tool I've learned, um, everything from journaling to meditation to breath work to very mystical, and I call it my witchy craft. Like we'll bake bread and do offerings to nature, and while the person is molassing the bread, they can bring in inside of the ritual all of that they're trying to cut. It's cut cording, and then we'll take the bread the next day when it's made and offer it to nature, and it's very, very powerful ritual. And so I think this ancient wisdom that I'm using is slowly, it just keeps appearing, like I'm collecting all the rose petals in the garden and I'm making sacred oil with it. And now my rose petals that are dry in front of my altar, they go with me everywhere I go. And they're like little seeds. I'll spread them in all these sacred sites that I go to. So I like to say that whoever comes here is going to have their heart so open. And most of the people that have come here, they go back with their emotional baggage is alleviated, but they go back with tools and heart opened possibilities to change not only their world. I feel like sometimes a lot of them are already sometimes on the path, and it's another leader going back to their community and proposing new groups or circles or ideas to help others in their community. I find I'm doing a lot of that. Is just opening people's hearts and reconnecting to nature, of course, because that is a big one for me.
Um, do you want to share a little bit about some of the workshops? I know you have one coming up in October so that people kind of have a sense of what to expect at the beginning.
Um,
Mhm.
yeah, this is about the Rose Path and the Magdalene Path, and about just before I left California, during a very mystical moment, I had a very, very, very powerful vision, and I saw this woman and this man that clearly looked like Jesus. They were completely gold, and I was receiving so much love from these two individual, and I could see ancient writing moving through. It was almost like a hologram. And I have a teacher that I've often called to help me when I can't decipher my own visions. And this teacher, her name is Antonia, she's amazing. And she actually told me I would be working with Mary Magdalene and her energy, and I would be leading these women in south of France. And I didn't really know much about Mary Magdalene. I remember only one thing that came through my mind was, oh, the whore of, in the Bible, that was the only thing that came to me. And since then, I've read so many books about her, and I understand so much more my path. Um, it opened up a very, very beautiful door to understanding that I like to call him Yeshua, not Jesus, but and Mary Magdalene. I feel like I had a past life with them. I've had mystical moments that have shown me that this isn't the first time, and I think that the reason there's a rising energy around her and him is because they really represent the sacred union, which we need to heal between the feminine and the masculine here and now in this moment on earth. It's not about just the rising movement of the woman becoming whole again. I think the men are very broken and need to also find uh, their way back to their heart. And everything unfolded from that one experience. I got here and someone said to me, oh, you're moving to the south of France, and Saint-Baume is barely an hour from where you're moving to. And then I went to St. Baume and prayed and laid a bread actually in a ritual and asked for a home because I was having a hard time finding a home. And then this home appeared with no paperwork needed because in France, they wanted all this paperwork. And the owner said, no, absolutely, I trust you. And that was a done deal. And then I went and visited all the sacred sites in Rennes-le-Château, where this whole part of the south of France has either mystical sometimes, or sometimes is it mystery stories that have been built with the people who live in these villages. But a lot of people speak about Mary Magdalene. But what I'm starting to understand, and the more I bathe in this her path, is I don't think she was the only one. I think there was a whole group of Magdalens, and they were priestesses, and they were shamans. They believed, they were mystics, and they believed in connecting to Earth and understanding that Earth was a much more, it was an extension of who they were, and the fact that they could live here on Earth. And so for me, my workshops or my retreats are about bringing these women, and I mean, I'm already thinking now of bringing men because it's just an evidence after 3 years that I want to move into the sacred masculine too, but I'm bringing them back to these sacred parts of the land that hold memories and keys to unlock inside each person who comes on the retreat. It's not me, it's I'm just guiding them through these beautiful spaces. But inside each person that comes, there's information of remembering why they're here and why they came here. So the retreat is a pilgrimage, and a pilgrimage is not about where you're going, but it's really the whole walk throughout your journey that brings you the answer. And some of it is sometimes challenging, like climbing Mount Bergeresh, and other times it can be very freeing, like having circles where we can talk intimately and express how we feel. The water, oh my goodness, there's so much water there. So doing water ritual, I just came back from Occitanie for a 4-day retreat, and it just burst me open. I was working with all water, and it really cleansed a lot of parts of me that was holding the shield and protection. And I set the intention. So each person that comes sets the intention of what it is that they would like to transform their lives into. And I think it's not just bringing a dream uh, or um, a lightness of being. It's really um, we are these innocent beings that come into our bodies, and then our whole life conditions us to become these adults, and our environment creates rules and tells you what's wrong and what is right. And I think it's reconnecting to the original person that was born, and that innocence, and finding your own true voice that's been shut down. So that's really what happens when you do pilgrimage. There's a lot of silence, a lot of walking in silence, so that people can really um, tune into the lands, because this divine Mother Earth, she's a giant mother, and if you walk in silence, you receive messages. Most people think that they're just thinking, but there's a there's an essence and a dynamic going on between the walk, you're moving the body, and then the connection between the earth, your feet, and the cosmic. You've got the stars and the sky above. So it's really, yeah, it's the idea is to help people open their heart and do it through both the earth, do it through community because it's a group of women, this one at least, and um, bring back in the spiritual, not the religion necessarily, although I have nothing. I used to be a little bit angry about religion. I went through that phase too. But I think that everyone gets to experience their spiritual opening the way they choose to. And so many people have lost a connection to spirituality. So Mary Magdalene's all over that region. There are some sacred, small, tiny churches where there's an evidence of a different story than Christianism said about both she, Yeshua, and Mary Magdalene that we'll visit, and stories that help us question maybe, where the truth really lies. Um, but before anything, yeah, it's bringing in the spiritual Mother Earth and the heart. So that's what my retreats are about.
I love it. So it sounds like there's definitely usually walking or maybe swimming, depending on where the walk is, and a lot of reflections and community discussions. Is that?
Well, there will be also there's chanting and sound healing because
Oh.
that's very powerful too. And
Mhm.
Tatiana is going to come in and play a big role in that in the retreat. She's my coordinator. Um, I also started chanting everywhere I go now because it really helps through sound sometimes. The last few, I'm always someone who wants to learn. It's not because I give my retreats that I don't believe that I shouldn't go to other people's retreats. So I continue continuously. If someone really speaks to me, and one of the last retreats I did was all mantra singing. The last two were about singing, and it's amazing without words how much power comes through sound and releasing just through singing and getting the voice to home. So there'll be a lot of that too. And there will be rituals, sacred rituals around the rose, around the communion of water, baptism, self-baptism, it's not me baptism, anyone. It's really each person choosing to go into the waters and reclaiming themselves by letting go. The water is cleansing, right? It's you go in, you wash all that was, and you let the water flow, you connect to them, and you flow out, and you become a new person through that own process. So, um, there will also be, I truly love like some of the sanctuaries that we go to. There's, grottos, places where you can set intentions, pray or meditate, whatever the person likes to call it. Um, Community prayer too, or meditation is very powerful to change and help change what's going on in the world. So there will be some rituals around that. I'd like people to paint stones and bring home something with them. So,
Hmm. Darcy, do you have any questions you want to ask?
Yes, and I also want to name for anyone who's not who's listening and not watching on YouTube, Izor has this there's this light that's just come into the room and it's like as you've been talking, it's really just filling this space and there's some like little rainbows and whatnot. And I was like, how perfect is this? Uh, all the things you're talking about. I really appreciate you giving voice to all the things that you're expressing because I know many people want to connect with this part of themselves, this way of being in the world, and it can be really challenging, with
yes.
everyday life, with some of what you shared so vulnerably about, life happening not according to plan and the heartache that can come and big changes. And so I'm wondering if you have any words of insight or maybe an invitation for even one person who's listening. It's like life is really tough right now. I'm wanting to reconnect with my heart, and hope and what's possible, but they're not really sure where to start. And maybe going on a trip or taking some time away in this moment isn't possible. But there is that really strong desire to reconnect with themselves and to heal, Do you have any, any maybe simple step or even a thought that any of us could consider?
Yes, and I've said this over and over whenever I've had people come here is go home and find either a garden or a park or somewhere, like even in New York City, go to Central Park and actually go sit under a tree and close your eyes and reconnect with Mother Nature and feel grass with your fingers.
Hmm.
Put the phone away and actually just really feel how much she holds you and how you are not alone and how much the Mother Earth is a part of who you are. You wouldn't be living without all of her abundance, her unconditional love. And if you start sitting and you're sitting under the tree and you don't separate yourself from the intelligence of a human being and the intelligence of Earth, you can start bridging and healing right there, just being in harmony between the body, the heart, and the earth, and letting thoughts go. And that's such a great beginning. So many people have cut themselves off from just being in nature. And if you're in a wheelchair and you can't get yourself out to the park, maybe someone can bring you some pots of flowers and you get to plant those flowers and you get to plant them yourself and you get to start speaking to those plants every day and telling them your stories and whisper to them because I actually have a lot of flowers in the house and I've become communal with them. And before, I promise you, every time I had flowers in the house, they never stayed. They always died. And now it's like I've taken the time to really connect to the flowers inside my house. And they are incredible because when they rebloom, I feel like, oh, they're honoring me from all the love I gave them. So nature, really take yourself out. Get away. It's it's so simple. Spirituality, you have five senses. Is what are you listening to? What kind of music? What kind of movies are you watching? Okay, what are you looking at? Is it violence or are you looking at love stories? What are you putting in your body? What kind of food? Is it good food that's healthy for your body? Is it meat that's been raised in farmland where they're free to roam? Or is it processed food? And what are you touching? Are you always touching a screen or are you actually touching a tree or some grass? So if you start right there, nourishing those five senses in the spiritual connection of just nature, I can guarantee you that's a great beginning. Because that was a big part of my journey when I moved to California. I'd never hiked before. My parents were city people from Paris, and we went a little bit to the countryside, but I never actually hiked. And so I really discovered nature, and she was my healer. I used to go there and cry when I had a hard day, and she was always holding me. And then very little by little, I started getting signs. Like I would find feathers, and I felt my angels were speaking through either feathers or a hawk would come and do a perfect circle and crown me above my head. And I was like, okay, that's my guys encouraging me and saying I'm not alone. So I started trusting, and you have to trust really that there are your guides. There's a whole team of guides and angels who are out there and they want to help you. And so while you're in nature, it's a lot easier for them to communicate and bring you these very small synchronicities and signs, just to let you know they're out. They've got your back and they're hearing your prayers.
Thank you.
Mhm.
I love this. Darcy, anything else before I jump in?
No, I'm sure I'll be sending you a message though and looking at all of your presence online. So I will circle back, but thank you.
Um, yeah, I'm so appreciative of you coming on. I think the essence that I just keep coming back to is just this opening of the healing of the heart and opening that I think a lot of people underestimate the power and the healing of doing that. It's I think that that is really misunderstood, and I love that that's what you're like specialized in doing, is opening our hearts again so that we can connect with ourselves and with others in a deeper way. And you certainly uh, help my mother and I. I mean, with just the simplicity of the practices that you provided us, there's definitely been a ripple effect. So thank you for that. Um, I know that Darcy will be sending the links to our listeners so that they can learn more about your October retreat that I wish I could come to. We actually interviewed Tatiana on the podcast too. So it's going to be the fact that they get both of you ladies on this retreat is
Be pretty
powerful.
magical.
It's going to be super magical and powerful just to have the power of sound and opening of heart and the shamanistic gifts that you have. It's really going to be beautiful. So I will definitely be sending that out to our people. Is there any final words that you have for us or the audience?
Just know that you are loved and you're worthy of love.
Mm. No, thank you.
You're welcome.